Oh, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically, from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. And as I say every day, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you know that you can type your questions or comments on whatever platform you happen to be watching on, and they will show up here in our chat room and we can communicate directly. And today is Friday. It's the first Friday of year 24. And speaking for myself, it's been a great week. Um, I very much feel that the energy of this year is very positive and very strong. One of the things I've heard said by a number of people, hello to Reverend Mary in the chat room. It's good to see you, Mary. And we'll be talking about you in a couple of minutes. One of the things I've heard a lot of people say is that this is a year with a great deal of acceleration and a lot of energy in it. Hello to Calvin in the chat room. And I not only agree with that and found it in my own readings for the new year, but I kind of feel like I've seen it in the first week. And so I'm looking forward to this year. And I mentioned that we were going to talk about Reverend Mary. As you can see, rolling across the bottom of the screen, Magic TV and Journey to the Parliament, the video, are up for Witchy Awards at the Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards at modernwitch.com. And hello to Renee in the chat room. Hello to Janet in the chat room. And of course, Magic TV and Pagan World TV, that it heavily involves Reverend Mary as the station manager of Pagan World TV. And hello to Sir Ebony in the chat room. It's wonderful to see you. Hello to Mary in the chat room. Mary Cavalcante, it's wonderful to see you. And, you know, I've talked a few times about how this sort of recognition is very encouraging to creators in our community. It's one of the ways that you can tell that the things you're doing have relevance to people, that it's worth continuing to do, even when it becomes a little overwhelming. And so I hope that you will go and check out the Witchy Awards, the Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards at modernwitch.com, and vote for all of your favorite people. And hello to Sir Edward in the chat room. And I would hope that Magic TV under Best Vidcast and Journey to the Parliament under Best Video would be among the things that you would want to vote for. If you like our offerings here at Pagan World TV / Magic TV, please vote for us. We would love that little bit of recognition, just to let us know that our work is appreciated and that it matters to our audience. And there are also many other wonderful candidates, all kinds of different categories. It's well worth taking the time to go to. And today I was going to talk about the crystal web. And of course, you know, there's no knowing everywhere that our conversations on Midday will go, but it's my intention to talk about the crystal web. And, you know, we're coming soon on the date of 1/11 for year 24, next week, next Thursday. And that the 11th of every month is the time for doing crystal web rituals. It's one of the main things that we do with the crystal web. And you know, many of us do our own private rituals. I was planning to do maybe a significant ritual here at the beginning of the year on 1/11, and I hope that you will join me for that. I'll be talking a lot more about it next week, but I figure before we start talking about that, we should talk about the crystal web itself, and maybe a little bit about the qualities of stones and crystals and how they interact with the crystal web and the things you can do with the crystal web. So the crystal web was founded by Sir Edward on the 8th day of August in 1988, or 8888, making it at this point well over 30 years old. And it is all over the world. People have created crystal web access points literally on every continent, even Antarctica. There are 2 crystal web access points in Antarctica created by members of the temporary residents there. And Antarctica has no permanent residents, but they do have temporary residents. And twice now, they have had people associated with witch school who and the Corellian tradition who were aware of the crystal web and created crystal web access points, which I have always found a thrilling thing. We have them crystal web access points throughout North America, in Europe, Africa, South America, and parts of Asia. So they're kind of everywhere, and obviously most are in North America, and the oldest. And Sir Edward started the crystal web, and he's talked about this on his page, really as a means of connecting people, of building psychic communication, psychic networks through energy. And that, in the end, is what the crystal web is really about. It's a connection between all of the people who have created crystal access points to the crystal web, that they can share their energy, that they can pool their energy for use for a variety of purposes. We've often used the crystal web for healing after natural disasters, for earth healing in general, for healing after unfortunate social situations, and also just for regular healing. And everyone who has an access point can access the crystal web and use some of that energy, which is refurbished every month on the 11th. And they can use it for their own purposes, their own healing, um, their own positive spell work in life, just to replenish their personal energy. There are lots of things you can do with it, and it also can be used for communication. To use it for conscious communication um, is a fairly advanced technique, but for unconscious communication, people use it all the time. Generally in the sense of doing healing. And the crystal web is, I would say, the most intricate and advanced psychic engine that humanity has yet created. Um, it has the huge web of crystal web access points all over the world, but there are also things like energy generators tied into the crystal web, and and many such energetic aspects. Mary says, I connected to the crystal web to protect my home from a tornado once. That's exactly the kind of thing that you use the crystal web for. Um, if you find yourself in a place where you need healing or protection, or even just um, momentary strength, you can call on the crystal web. These are some of the reasons it's there. It's a connection between people. And the full uses, of course, we will only discover over time as we use it more. But we'll be talking a lot more about it um, between now and the 11th. And as I say, I'm hoping to do um, probably more than just your average crystal web ritual on the 11th. Now, I've talked about crystal access points several times. There are a number of places where we talk about how you can create that. We have a number of videos on Magic TV where you could go and see how to create a crystal web access point. Perhaps I'll review a couple of them on my page and on several of our platforms to help people see how to create one if they don't already have one. And there are also more than one way to do it, but the way that I have always recommended is in the video. Um, but basically, you charge your crystal to connect to the web, and you can use it to put in energy and to pull out energy. And what kind of crystal would you use? Well, generally people use quartz crystal, and we know about the many properties of quartz crystal. We're communicating now through machines that use quartz crystal as part of their structure. Quartz crystal is very good for amplifying and um, projecting energy in this way. But there are other things you can use it as well. It doesn't have to be quartz crystal. Hello to Tom in the chat room. It's good to see you, Tom. Um, every crystal has its own energy, and some people will choose to use crystals that have particular energy um, that has to do with how they wish to use their access point. If they want to really focus on healing, if they want to focus on communication, a lot of people use crystal web access points also to help with their own psychic abilities, to help strengthen their psychic abilities. If that was the purpose of your crystal web access point, you might choose to use amethyst, for example, or lapis lazuli. And it's not uncommon that people's access points will also be crystal grids, not just a single crystal. And some of the most complex crystal access points include dozens of stones laid out in intricate patterns, mostly using the principles of geometric magic. And we talk about geometric magic on Wednesday. And this is the use of different shapes for different purposes, the different qualities of different shapes and the way that energy flows through them. And of course, the thing that gives the shape its quality is how energy interacts in that form. So, for example, you would use a circle. You could use it for containment. You can also use it for amplification. You use a triangle for transformation. You might use a square for stability, and so on and so forth. Um, you might use a simple line for projection from one thing to another. There are all kinds of uses of geometric magic. But in creating crystal grids, you often do use geometric magic and often a number of different shapes to help to point the energy where you want it to go. You do this also with magical tools. If you look at people's magical tools, you'll often notice that they involve geometric shapes in one way or another. And it's using these qualities. Not everyone, not always, but you'll notice it often enough, and you'll find um, that geometric shapes show up a lot in metaphysics, and it's because they, like everything else, have their own energetic quality. Now, if you are doing this kind of crystal grid for your crystal access point, in addition to the shape, the particular stones you might use would be important. You might use a quartz crystal for your main access point, or you might not. You could augment it with things like lapis lazuli, which is good for psychic communication, amethyst, which is good for spirituality, and therefore also good for psychic things, turquoise, which can be good for communication, and also um, for positivity and blessing. You could use carnelian, for example, to strengthen the energy. You could use malachite or um, similar stones for growth, expansion, perhaps prosperity. These are some of the different kinds of stones you might use, and you want to cleanse and bless every stone um, as you set it into place. And if you have a personal area to create your crystal access point, you can be as complex as you want to be. Um, most people keep it fairly simple, but there are some that are very complex. At Cricket Hill in Chicago, um, there were some very complex grids, and other places in Chicago, which basically is where the web originates. And Sir Edward says, we can use a lot of entangled energy. And that's absolutely true. The web has many different ways of creating your access points and using your access points. We have a book on it. They're not currently available in print form, I don't believe, but you can find it, for example, at Witch School. You can find it, I believe, in our libraries. And that is the Crystal Web Users Access or Crystal Web Users Manual, which talks about everything from creating your access point to creating a remote access point or a group access point, which are minor differences to how you can use geometric magic. I think it probably talks about the color of energy and all the different things that you can do, or many of the different things you can do with the crystal web. And hello to Jade in the chat room. It's good to see you, Jade. I will say that the crystal web is a very subtle and complex engine. So I want to avoid using the term everything you could do, because I don't think we know everything you could do with it. And, I believe that, like with most advanced spiritual techniques, um, a great deal of it we understand physically. Some of it we understand spiritually and are bringing into the physical. And hello to Isabel. Isabel in the chat room. It's good to see you. And Isabel says hello from Montreal. It's good to see you, Isabel. And certainly we have crystal access points in Canada. Um, we I'm sure that we will have a crystal web ritual also at the upcoming lustration. And at the last lustration here in Danville, we created a special crystal access point dedicated to the memory and the energy of Wendy LaJoy, the beloved Lady Wendy, who had been first elder of the Corellian tradition for many years. And we also have many other access points here in the area. And hello to Chuck in the chat room. And the crystal web, I really think, is still unfolding its nature to us. Yes, on one hand, we've all created it through our actions, but it's also its own entity, its own, I guess we might say, egregore, its own spirit, um, which is more than just the sum of its parts. And I think this is true of, and Chuck says, Missouri Ozarks is my home state. It's wonderful to see you, Chuck. I think with everything, metaphysical and non-metaphysical, you have its physical reality and its spiritual reality. I mean, I have talked before about the idea that all things have spirit. And anything that has spirit is more than just what you do with it. It's also how it reacts to you, how it grows on its own, and they do. It can be quite an exciting adventure, walking the path of spirit, because you're never walking alone, because everything is walking with you. And when you follow a spiritual path, you come to realize that fundamental idea of Western metaphysics, as above, so below, that the energy of deity, however you want to identify deity, or just if you want to think of it as the universe, is present in everything that exists, not just you, not just us, but everything else. And if you want to understand the nature of deity, you can really see it in everything if you look for it. That's why there are so many forms of divination. You can divine from literally anything, because spirit is in literally everything. And I've spoken before about how the different levels at which, from which we look at any subject, will show us different aspects of it. And we can look at the interaction of spirit and matter through the cycle of incarnation and reincarnation, or we can simply look at it through the immanence of spirit in all things. And both of these are true. It's a matter of exactly how you're looking. Because on one hand, we are many individual souls with many incarnations. And on the other hand, the entire world is one living being at the same time, the entire universe. And being able to understand that is a big part of understanding metaphysics. And it's why so many things in metaphysics ultimately have effectiveness, because spirit runs through all of them. Now, when we talk about the crystal web, the energy that we place into it, the nature of the crystal web is in effect a set of artificial vortices and meridians, ley lines running around the earth. And many of the existing vortices and ley lines also began as human constructions. A lot of times, the great energetic vortices are located on what were once sacred centers, which certainly added to the energy and sometimes created it. The repeated use of energy creates energetic centers, vortices, um, chakras, um, out of the energy that's already there and the energy that's added to it. So, in creating the crystal web, we are creating a strong energetic network around the world. And as I say, it's been being created for over 30 years. It's quite strong indeed. Some time ago, um, a priestess who was working with the crystal web monthly rituals, um, the first time that she joined a group ritual for the crystal web, found the energy overwhelming, even though she had done it. She'd worked with crystals for a long time, but in opening the web together with other people, she found just that it was full of energy. It truly is. Um, so if you open your crystal access point, um, whether in that global ritual on the 11th or for private use at any time, what do you do if you find the energy a little overwhelming? Well, you do what you would always do. You ground the energy, um, and you work with it at the state that you can. And you'll find that you can deal with greater and greater amounts the more you work with it. Um, but it does contain very great amounts of energy that, again, can be directed for healing and um, for spiritual goals of all sorts. And I think that, I would have to say, I think it's, of all the different things we've been involved with, probably the most ambitious, um, in terms of connecting people, which, as I say, was I believe the primary purpose Sir Edward originally started the web for. I don't know, other than our media work, I don't know that we've done anything spiritually more effective for connecting people than the crystal web, because it connects them energetically. And I think that has been a wonderful adventure to be involved in. And of course, the crystal web is there for everyone who wishes to use it. It is a powerful engine. And I want to take a moment and go back to the Witchy Awards, because I see them scrolling across the bottom of the screen, and I want to say again, if you missed the first few moments of the broadcast, that we are up for a couple of awards in the Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards at modernwitch.com. And under Best Vidcast, Magic TV is a nominee. And Magic TV/Pagan World TV has done so much work over the years. And I'd like to say that if you like our work, please consider voting for us. Um, Reverend Mary, who we were talking with earlier, as station manager for Pagan World TV, has done, I think, tremendous work in in media, and I would love to see our work honored in this way. The other nomination is for Journey to the Parliament, and if you're not familiar with Journey to the Parliament, it is a movie that was premiered at a pagan-made movie from us that was premiered at the Parliament of World's Religions last year in Chicago, which deals with the interaction of pagans and the Parliament of World Religions and how this has changed in the years from the Second Parliament in 1993 up through today. And there are interviews with a number of people talking about their interactions and experiences with the Parliament. Um, and it is, I think, a very interesting video. Obviously, others thought that too, or it wouldn't be nominated. And if you've not seen it, you can see it at Magic TV. You can see it on our various Pagan World platforms. Um, and I highly recommend taking the time to go and look at it. And why is this important? And when you go to the Witchcraft and Occult Media awards page, there are all kinds of different categories and people you can vote for, and you should vote for whoever you think most deserves it. But we would be very pleased if some people thought we did. We have been doing this now, well, at Magic TV for the better part of 20 years, and in other forms of media much longer. And as I've said in other programs, recognition from the community is one of the things that really tells you that what you're doing is worth continuing. And um, it is always very welcome to have your work recognized. So I hope you'll consider voting for us. And anything like this, I was saying we've been doing Magic TV itself for just under 20 years. And there are times that gets very old. There are times when it's like another day. Um, I did Reverend Don's vlog for a solid 10 years, and toward the end of it, um, it became difficult to continue, simply because it had gone on so long. I enjoyed it still, but I found it harder to keep going. And when I moved on to other projects such as this, I found new inspiration. But one of the things for anyone who spends years working in building organizations and building community, there are certainly times that it's helpful to see that people value what you do. It is probably the greatest way of rebuilding your energy, to see that you influence, that you are helpful to people. And Chuck says sharing is caring. It absolutely is. Absolutely. And all of the people, not just us, but all of the people nominated for awards at the Witchy Awards, I'm sure will feel that same way. And so everyone that you think, everyone who has touched your life, I hope you will vote for them. And I think that our community, I mean, certainly we could go overboard with too many awards, but we're certainly not there yet. And I think the more that we acknowledge people's efforts, the more that we, for one of a better way, as a community, that we thank our creators. I think it means a great deal to them. And I hope that you will support that. And with that, I see that we've come to the end of our half hour. We'll be talking more about the crystal web and a variety of other subjects, I'm sure, next week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I thank you for being here. I love spending this time with you. I love seeing all the people in the chat room. I love seeing old friends in the chat room, and I also love seeing new names I've not seen before. It does kind of make my day. And I hope that you enjoy the program, and let us close with our prayer, as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to have the connections with other people that give value to our lives and help us to grow and to expand in our spiritual quest. Help us to build those connections, whether through the crystal web or any other source, that allow us to communicate with people, to share our energy, and to build a strong and loving community. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, it's easy for people to focus on the negative, but help us to focus on the positive as we go forward, and help us to go forward, and not to be caught in the duress of the past, and to keep our focus always positive. We rejoice in this walk that we walk with you, And we go forward with you hand in hand. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, with great love, we thank you, knowing you are always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence. May you be blessed now and always, and I will see you on Monday.